colors, bro.
I'm not full auto. It's not full auto.
That's not full auto?
This is. That's full auto.
Damn, bro. Okay.
Hey guys, Spider2B here, and today I'll be talking about Mommy Hanying, who's been upgraded in more ways than one. She's back to lock in her place in the metaphysical team as the premier S-rank physical tank Omniframe, so Rosetta can finally rest from the main team. Thank you for your service, Rosetta. And if you guys want to see these guys early or ask questions live, join us on twitch.tv/Spider2B, and you can join the chat here. And also, please check the pinned comments for any updates or corrections, because I do make mistakes sometimes, and timestamps will be provided as usual. To explain Hanying's core kit, it's easier to go through her core rotation, utilizing double S and her 6-star signature weapon, and explaining her kit step by step. So we're going to start by doing a swap and attack, and then 6 red orb pings, filling up the gauge. Once we see the green harmonic orb, we want to tap that, then tap her ultimate to enter her dagger form. Then we want to tap ult 3 times, so 1, 2, 3, and then hold ult to do her ultimate finisher with QTEs. Then we want to spam her red orb again until we see the green orb. Tap her ultimate. Tap ult 3 times again. Hold ult. Ult with QTEs. And then we can go ahead and we can swap off. Go to Bianca. Do Bianca things. So usually Bianca in Hanying teams does about 1 ult rotation. Ult with QTEs here. Then we want to swap to Elisa. Do her ult rotation. And then swap right back to Hanying to repeat it again. Now something to note for Hanying is that once you enter her ultimate dagger form, you don't want to spam tap the ultimate too much and spam more than 3 times. So for example here, I do it a little excessively. And then when I try to go to my next rotation, I'm gonna barely have any orbs, right? And I can't even get to my harmonics orb. So just keep that in mind. If you did it right, then you should have Matrix when you exit the ultimate finisher here. So you can see here I have Matrix orbs. So that way, I'll have plenty of orbs for the second ultimate finisher, and I can guarantee 3 stacks. Now, if you have double S3 and or deadline timing, then you can kind of spam the tap ult a bit more without any consequences. You can see here, plenty of extra orbs to spare. Again, you don't need it for her to function, but with double S3 or deadline timing, you don't really have to worry about counting how many times you tap the ultimate. You should have enough to always get full 3 charges on the second ultimate finisher. I also want to mention that Hanying can use 2 yellow orbs to get her green harmonics orb quicker and get to her ultimate quicker. As you can see here, the gauge is only halfway. So if we try to do the tap ult rotation, we get about enough for 1 ult rotation before we're completely out of orbs. So useful for shorter pancake fights, but not really used outside of that. Hanying is the first S-rank to have a true slash affix, basically a new secondary elemental effect along with her physical element trait. In battle, this is indicated by the icon on the left of the screen, so we can see the sword here for the slash affix. Now there will be more affixes later on, so affix teams will be fleshed out later, and new characters will be getting an affix element along with the main element. So for example, a character like Wansha will also be getting glaciation affix, and previously released characters will be getting leap upgrades that enable new elemental affixes to be added to them, as we'll see with Karenina Scire in a bit, as well as with Bianca Stigmata next patch. Now, Hanying's true slash attack, for those who are curious, is basically once you have the gauge full, you tap ult, and then you tap a blue orb, and then you basic attack, and you detonate all that damage for all of these orange numbers here, which is the true slash damage. So do it again. Here we go. After that, do this tap ult, hold ult, do your damage, and then swap off. The affixed effect itself is not really super significant, but it's basically Kuro's way of keeping units relevant for longer by giving them a second element so they don't get replaced so soon and serve 0 purpose. Exaggerating, but you kind of get the point. Now, affixed weak stages are only going to appear in Hero or above War Zone, in the affixed zones, or in the skirmish zone in Pain Cage once you get to it. So for now, don't worry about Hanying's slash affix moveset, just know it exists for the next patch and for endgame hardcore players only. I'll cover affix more in depth in the Lucia guide in the next patch update when it becomes relevant, and I'll cover the rotations and everything there, so stay tuned for that. Her S5 is a classic S5, so once she uses her ultimates, it'll trigger double QTEs. Pretty classic S5 upgrade. As for her double S, when she enters the field, she gains a little bit of gauge on her passive here. When she pings her green orb, she'll get a free 3 orb ping when she enters her hair down state. And also, if you don't have enough gauge, as you can see here, we only have half gauge, you can spam your ult button to consume the blue orbs and get the charges. It also increases her ultimate damage, it doubles her defense shred, so overall it's essential for smooth and silky gameplay, and it's the recommended stopping point for most people. Her double S3 is a free 3-row ping on swap in. In this case, it's more possible charges, so it can save rotations if you haven't really basic attacked that much. There's also a slight increase in damage in her ultimate and in her hair down form. She gets a bit more physical resist shred, and she gets more slash stacks, which are not relevant now, but will be a nice upgrade for the future slash team. And overall, it's a nice quality of life. It changes up her build and lets her run the patent shred instead of having to run Caudy. Before this, you would have to run Caudy or run deadline timing, either or. But it's not needed for her to function. It's just a nice upgrade. Basically, with triple S, she gets more physical and slash damage. She has a fast swap cooldown for units by 3 seconds. It's a nice upgrade, but it's not really needed. She gets more ultimate damage and even more physical resist shred. So it's a strong upgrade for those who really like Hanying. There's not really a super major change in gameplay, other than you can kind of swap through the teammates quicker. For my rank recommendations, I would say that double S is the minimum for proper function. Double S3 is pretty nice for ease of use and slight buffs. I would say that Hanying is probably one of the characters where you can kind of see the advantages of double S3 more. It's just nicer to play, and it opens her up to another type of build with 4-piece patent, but you don't need it. And triple S, if you're a heavy spender, I would still prioritize her weapon and her weapon resonance over double S3, but her double S3 is nice if you can get it. So we've equipped the 5-star weapon here. So as for the 5-star weapon, we're going to try to run the regular rotation here. So, as you can see, we didn't get that last charge. We got almost there, but we didn't quite get it. The rotation still kind of works. You may have to basic attack in between. She technically does work with her 5-star weapon. It just won't be the full amount of charges. So the main things you lose out with the 5-star weapon compared to the 6-star are full 3 charges, the potential of deadline timing resonance, and the slash damage increase. And more importantly, the 6-star signature weapon grants an additional 20% physical defense shred. And that's the main factor of why you get it. 20% is a lot. TLDR for her weapon, the 5-star weapon is playable, but there's less shred and much less damage. The 6-star weapon has a defense shred for the support debuff, and it has increased core passive damage. And the 6-star weapon with deadline timing, you can just straight up forgo 2 Caudy for the 4 signature set and just run 4-piece patent. You can weave in some basics. And double S3 with 6-star weapon and deadline timing, you can very comfortably run the 4-piece signature set and 4-piece patent. As for 6-star weapon resonance, first priority is polymerization collapse for the physical shred. After that, deadline timing is more comfy for longer fights since she can be a little bit orb hungry. And then after that, you can run either Matrix Lightning or Incandescence. If you're running like Pain Cage or Burst Scenarios, you probably don't need deadline timing. You can run these two. Otherwise, this would be her third resonance. But again, she doesn't need weapon resonance to function. If you have them, it's just nice to have polymerization collapse and deadline timing. For builds, she'll always run her 4-piece signature set Changwuzi for her kit-specific damage multipliers, as Hanying will now be main DPS. And as for her 2-piece set, if she's double S, you're going to be running 2-piece Caudy. If she's harmonized, you could technically run 4-piece Caudy if you wanted to. But if you have double S3 or above, you can run 4-piece patent for the additional physical resist shred. Again, you can run it at double S with deadline timing, but you'll need to weave in some basic attacks to maintain more orb uptime, but it is possible. And as for resonance, attack and crit on the top row, because again, physical units, so crit does matter here. For the bottom row, core passive will be her only bottom resonance. No exceptions. All of her damage resides in her core passive multipliers. Hypertune slots 4, 5, and 6 first, and then slots 1, 2, and 3 afterwards. Again, top row does matter because increase in crit, but start with the bottom row first for the attack buff. And as for the Infinite Toss Awaken, I usually like to go red orb for the starter orb. If you're in the super early game and you don't have access to the event shop, you could run 4-piece Ith and 2-piece Voltaire, but again, clear chapter 2, 3, unlock the event shop. As for team setups, Hanying will be taking the load off of Bianca, but not fully dominating the field, as Elisa and Bianca are still rotated in to cover downtime. Hanying will be the leader, with Elisa as the starter. For Warzone or longer fights, Elisa Echo will be on her 4-piece Signa and harmonized 4-piece Da Vinci, or 2-piece Philip if she's not harmonized. And as for Bianca Stigmata, she'll be on her 4-piece Charlotte and 2-piece Catherine for debuffs, and harmonized 2-piece Lewin Hook, Caudy, or Darwin. I I have mine kind of in a reverse order here, but 2-piece Catherine, you want that on her no matter what. That's probably the most important part to her now that she's kind of a sub DPS. You can also run 4-piece Patent on Bianca, but you'll need the 2-piece Caudy to help maintain the consistency of the orb rearrange because you lose that when you replace Charlotte, and then you would probably have to harmonize 2-piece Catherine. But it is another option. I just personally like having 4-piece Charlotte here because I don't like to deal with orb RNG. My runs are already scuffed enough, I don't want to reset as much. For Pain Cage, Bianca is converted to a QTE bot since a heavily invested Hanying can kind of solo carry many physical Pain Cage bosses, especially the earlier ones. So you can run 2-piece Voltaire, 2-piece Catherine, and then 2-piece Da Vinci, and then you can harmonize 2-piece Da Vinci here, and she doesn't appear on the field. Either this or you run Rosetta, either or. But do note that with Rosetta, the physical defense shred does not stack, so if you've already maxed out the physical defense shred, which we'll see in a bit later when I summarize all of the multipliers, there's not a massive difference between Stigmata and Rosetta as the QTE bot. And as for Elisa, she switches from her 4-piece Sigma, 4-piece Da Vinci to 4-piece Sigma, 2-piece Philip, or 4-piece Philip if you have her harmonized. As for the budget team, Elisa Echo is a free-to-use premier physical amplifier, and she can be farmed from the Dorm Expedition shop, so you can get 50 shards of her for free as long as you do your Dorm expeditions there. But yeah, if you don't have Elisa yet, you can always use Live Luminance if you have her leaped, or a triple S Live Eclipse, or even the A rank Hanying. You can run regular Hanying if you really want to as a support. You can have a double Hanying team. And as for the sub DPS, if you don't have Bianca Stigmata, Rosetta works if you already have her, or any physical DPS. If you played from the beginning and you have Alpha Crimson Abyss, she technically works. Any physical DPS will work in that slot. As for her pet, it's kind of a stun, so you can kind of stay there kind of frozen in time for a little bit there. So they can't really move. And the passive skill basically is a crit damage increase, which is pretty significant and it's pretty nice. And you want to level the passive skill first, then the physical damage increase, and then any attack buffs after that. And if you should pull for it or not, it's a nice crit damage buff, but it's not super insane and not super useful utility. It's kind of just a freeze. It doesn't really group them per se. It just stops like small mobs from moving. So if you're free to play, easy skip. And if you're monthly pack only, also probably easy skip. For those who have battle pass and monthly, it's decent if you want to pick it up, but it's not really an essential pet. The weapon is a much higher priority, so focus on getting that first. Would say she's worth pulling even if you don't have Bianca Stigmata. We will be getting Bianca Stigmata for free in the near future with her leap upgrade, so if you don't have her, you will have her. And hell, even Rosetta works as a temporary substitute. It's just less optimal and she's free. And since Elisa is also free, Hanying technically is the only character you need to pull to finish the physical team. Hanying won't be on field the entire time. She's often a solo DPS, but not always. So like Hyperly, Bianca Stigmata will be kind of more of a sub DPS for now, only swapped in when necessary in shorter game modes. Otherwise, you'll swap her in, for example, Warzone. Hanying's got damage, she's got a bunch of physical resist shred, and she's got Booba. What's not to like? So overall, pretty close to a must-pull unit, the premier physical TPS with a long foreseeable future. And the next patch will have Bianca Leap, so she'll be essential for the Affix team. Basically, a new secondary element team relevant to players in hero or above war zones or ultimate pink cage skirmish zones. I would try to grab her weapon when you can afford it. Pet isn't super necessary. The weapon makes her deal much more damage and it better supports the team, but you can still use her with a 5-star weapon if you absolutely don't have any pulls. And I also wanted to go over the physical element and give a little refresher for the non-veteran players out there. Physical has 3 different factors for damage: crit rate and crit damage, and you'll have 100% crit rate for the whole team if you have Elisa, or for at least one unit if you have Live Luminance. You'll have physical element resist shred, and this kind of acts similar to lightning, dark, fire, or ice resist shred, but physical also has the physical defense shred, and this is to shred the enemy's kind of armor bar, the yellow toughness bar. That's kind of what it is. And shredding enemy defense, aka the armor, lets you do more damage to them, and this kind of balances out the fact that physical damage can crit and other elemental damage cannot crit. And with Hanying, you get 20% physical defense shred from her signature set. You get 20% physical defense shred by default, so either her green orb or her QTE. You'll get 20% physical defense shred from her double S, and you'll get 20% physical defense shred from her weapon. And that's 80% physical defense shred in total by Hanying herself with double S and her 6-star weapon. It's another 20% if someone is holding 2-piece Catherine, for a total of 100% shred for the entire team without triple S. Unlike Rosetta, which needs triple S to get the 100%. And as for the physical element resist shred, you get 10% resist shred by default on either the green orb ping, 10% more from her QTE, and you get an additional 5% from her double S3 and an additional 10% from her triple S. But overall, if you're absolutely out of black cards, and this is for people who are just like, you have nothing and her ban is about to end, and you have a triple S or double S plus 6-star weapon leaped Rosetta Rigger, then you can kind of get away with her for now and not have to get Hanying. She provides almost as much defense shred, 80 to 100% depending if it's triple S or not, but she lacks the physical elemental resist shred like Hanying without the leap and triple S. Rosetta also doesn't have time stop, so that's a massive loss in damage and score, and she does less damage in general compared to Hanying. And you'll be less effective in future / Warzone content if you get to higher stage Warzone or Pain Cage. But again, choice is ultimately up to you, and I don't know if you can beat Hanying's big personalities. Karenina Scire is getting a leap upgrade. Basically, she does more damage, and if you hold down basic attack, you can hold down basic attack again, and you can see here, we pulled in enemies. We have 999 stacks instantly. This will also proc matrix as you saw earlier. So you can hold basic attack. Then here you can also use a 3-orb ping, and it will do more damage and trigger QTEs. Karenina's leap also grants her the ionization affix, but I'll explain that next patch with the new Lucia guide since it doesn't really have a use right now, and I don't want to get into it if I don't have to. That Karenina's leap is a decent leap upgrade if you have the resources, but it's not really a priority for newer or casual players. It's mainly used for those who plan to use her in ionization team next patch. So again, if you're hero plus above in Warzone, or if you're doing ultimate Pain Cage and you're entering the skirmish zone. And with all leap upgrades, her shards will be available in the Battle Pass voucher shop. So that means for you Karenina players who don't have her at SS3, now you can. And you can technically bring her all the way up to triple S or above to buff the team more. She does still want her 6-star signature weapon to maximize her utility and damage. And overall, for Dark Warzone, it just speeds up the rotation pretty nicely. So Karenina doesn't have to stay on field as much, which means you can allocate more time for Lamia. Chat, you'll be glad to know that they're reworking the farming stage. So once the patch drops, if I remember correctly, you won't need to manual farm up to level 25 anymore to auto clear. It'll just be level 25 off the bat. So any future patch, you can just go in, burn all your serum, right? And then just click auto clear and you're done. You're good. Also, the event currency is now no longer event specific. You could technically pre-farm, but you could just dump all your serum, keep it. When the patch drops and uses the exact same currency, you just buy out whatever you need. But you'll still have the memory discounts, so the signature sets will always be discounted as usual, and that will refresh with every patch. Major quality of life, we will get farming much easier. Thank you guys for watching. Join me on Twitch to get any questions answered live. And you want to see these guides early, drop a like if you found this video helpful. Dislike if you didn't. Subscribe for more guides for future characters. Guanches will be coming out next. Thank you to my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Take care and peacely. He can indeed carry my load. What? What the fuck? Editor, put that in the video. We're exposing this guy. YouTube's gonna see it. He's caught in 4K.